Hi, everybody. I'm Sorrel.
I'm Mark.
Mark, indeed. And we are together. Well, we're a couple and we are Relationship Rebellion. And if you are here, we'd love to hear from you. And you can post a comment or question in the comments. That's the only way you can communicate with us, actually. So there's nothing else. Anyway.
Semaphore.
That wouldn't work either because we can't see who's watching us. But it's always nice to know if there's somebody watching. Because people like to keep it a secret. Why do you think people want to keep it a secret that they're watching us doing Relationship Rebellion?
Because they're selfish and they don't want to share the edge that they get from listening to this forward-looking dialogue.
Absolutely. They want to keep it to themselves because they think it gives them
cool points.
Yes.
Points for style.
Yeah, but you don't get points for style unless you let people know what you've got that's giving you a cool edge.
You're asking for advertising, aren't you?
Yes,
you're asking people to say, I heard this groovy stuff on Relationship Rebellion, and they said this. Yeah, you should watch it. Shameless self-promotion.
It is dreadful, isn't it? Right, and now I've rolled up my sleeves. I feel much better.
She means business.
There you are, you see. So today we are going to talk about the third losing strategy, which is known as unbridled self-expression. And what does that look like, Mark?
Is that the bit where you get your partner in the corner of the kitchen and just tell them everything about how you feel about them and your general condition and disappointment in everything?
Absolutely.
Is that the big vent?
You get them cornered somewhere they can't get away, and then usually you raise your voice. So you don't do it in a nice, sweet voice where you say, darling, when you say things like that, I don't know why, but I just feel a bit hurt. And I know it's me, but anyway, so you blah. I was using swear words, that's why I'm making funny noises. Why did you do that? I'm so angry, you pissed me off. I'm hurting so deeply inside. And it's like throwing up. What did you call it? Projectile vomiting, didn't you?
Shush with the nebutia. Yeah, it's just like taking all that stuff in your mind and going over somebody you're trying to love. Now, and so it's a stress, it's a trauma dump, it's a stress burst, it's a tantrum, it's a loss of temper.
Yeah.
And it tells you about the deep pressure that the person is feeling.
It tells you about your own deep pressure you're feeling when you vent, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
And it also tells you how not fun you are to live with. That's really interesting.
It's definitely no fun to live with someone who does that a lot.
Who does that at all?
Well, okay. I think you might be fun to live with some of the time, but not enough of the time.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a history to this. It's a bit 1960s.
Okay.
And you could say it started with a movement within psychotherapy and psycho other things. I'm not going to name too many names. Where it's like, get it all out. Have some catharsis. You'll feel better afterwards. You be honest about what you feel and all this sort of thing. And charge it with loads of really strong emotion. I mean, it's one thing to say, I don't know why, but I just feel a bit hurt at the moment. And to say, God, what the hell do you think you're doing? You really hurt me. I'm giving myself a sore throat doing this stuff.
Well, it has to do with people back then we thought that anger was something that if you kept it within you, it would make you ill.
Yes.
And so therefore, it was recommended that you get it out of yourself. Now, they didn't say, go and give it to your partner.
No.
They didn't say that.
Well, some of them probably might have done, actually.
Okay. Well, okay.
Some therapists probably would have said, say these things to your partner. And, this unbridled, honest self-expression. And the thing about it, if you bottle it up, it'll make you ill. That goes all the way back to Freud, who, he was around the 19th and early 20th century, at a time when steam-driven things were big.
Mm-hmm.
So all that Victorian industrial stuff. And it was a kind of a pressure cooker sort of metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm mixing my metaphors here, but so if you didn't get it out, then it's going to build up inside it. And actually, of course, when you're angry all the time, it does make you ill. There's no doubt about that. But dumping all over your partner isn't very helpful.
Yes. And in fact, it doesn't interrupt the process, because the reason one is full of anger and frustration and resentment is because one has made that.
Yeah.
And if you actually empty it, then you're in the process of making more. So what we have is a cyclic behavior of tantydom and handbags. And if you're in a relationship and you bring that with you, it will be an unstable relationship, will it not? Because you are an explosive thing.
Yes, it will keep cycling round and round.
Absolutely. So what's the answer?
So,
Guru.
So, just for those of you who don't know, these losing strategies we've got from a man called Terry Real, who's a couples therapist, and his thing is that, you know, when you are engaging in unbridled self-expression, you're not doing anything to move the problem forward. You're not finding a solution. You're just making your other half angry with you. So clearly that's not very clever, is it? I mean, if you want to try and move towards a happy relationship, making each other angry isn't going to help. So I would say
this is why we recognize it as a losing strategy.
Yes.
Because after you've done that to somebody, they will definitely feel different about you. Because in all of us, we have this tiny, vicious, nasty, mean character.
Yeah, we all have a vicious character.
Comes with having to survive here.
Yeah.
And at no point is it welcome in any party that you want to stay in. You know, because once they stay in your whatever it is, you know, and they know you'll bring it to the party, why would anyone want to be close to you, actually?
Yeah. And, you know,
unreliable.
So yesterday, as Mark knows, I met up with an old friend, a school friend, in fact, and she's a counsellor, and she says she can tell her clients that she's happy for them to be angry with her or to express anger in the counselling room. And that's fine. They're paying her to listen to their anger.
It is a bit S&M, because if you're going to be doing that to somebody, they won't be having a nice time. And so really, you should be paying them.
Yeah, so pay a counsellor or a therapist of some description.
Yeah.
If you really feel that you've got to get it out of your system, and then look at what it is. So for me, I've actually made a little list of things here. First was about thoughtful self-expression. There's nothing wrong with discussing your feelings with your partner, as long as you do it in a thoughtful and considered way. So actually, if you're just about to go into an angry outburst, you probably need to remove yourself from the situation.
You're not stable.
Because you're not stable. And then you'd be wanting to use time out, so that it's kind of done in an agreed way, that you both know how time out works.
So that you can get stable.
So you can get stable. And then you can have the conversation about whatever it was that upset you.
Stably.
Yes, exactly. Stably. Later in the day or the next day or something.
After some hay.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Well, that's in a way that's part of it, because, you know, I'm prone to angry outbursts when I'm hungry.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I've never done it to you, have I?
Well, that's because I keep you thoroughly stuffed. Try not to be late for food.
That's why there's always biscuits in the
Absolutely. Emergency rations.
But no, yes, I have been known to call people by quite rude names when I'm hangry. So, okay, so what is your status? Are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you just in a bad mood that day?
Are you toxic? Are you toxic?
Did you have too much to drink last night?
If you're in a toxic condition, you want to be careful about what you're saying to people.
Yeah.
Because they might be in a less toxic condition and see it as a red flag. Because actually what this is red flag behavior in a relationship or any relationship. If somebody is behaving in that utterly unfettered, revelatory value, look at my underpants, you know, that sort of thing, then it's a red flag, isn't it?
Yes, it is a red flag. And well, at the very least, a pink flag, but it's definitely...
It's a pink flag if it's a little child who's doing it to you and it doesn't know any better.
Yes.
If it's big and has got thumbs that can press buttons and whatnot, then
Which kind of buttons are you talking about?
I'm talking about any of the functiony things.
You mean on a
Yeah.
computer?
Oh, as a
Okay.
phone.
I thought children could do that.
Well, I was thinking full commercial liability, duty of care,
Okay.
bound by everything the health and safety executive. You know, if you couldn't do it at work, what on earth are you doing it in your relationship for? Unless you've got consent.
That's a really good test. If I did this at work, would I get disciplined, or would I get called into the manager's office for a talking to, or would everybody refuse to speak to me for the next day or two because I
liked it where you were going next decade, because you're not safe to talk. If you're going to do that, if you're going to melt like that, then what we have unstable. And I'd like to recognise on the 5 losing strategies, every one of them is being pulled by a loser.
So can you explain about this to the lovely public out there who are watching this?
Yes. What's the first losing strategy?
Oh, now you ask.
The
second one is needing to be right.
Needing to be right, okay? What a thankless discussion that is to have with anyone. You don't need to be right, you need to be happy together. What's the next one?
Actually, that was the first one. The second one is trying to control your partner.
Yes, I mean, for goodness sake, it's not a puppy. Is it? It's not a puppy. And actually, you shouldn't need to control your partner. You can be in control of your partner if you're in control of yourself. In that, whilst I'm civil with you, it's highly likely you'll be civil with me.
Yes.
I recognise that as reflective control.
It would be nice if there was an alternative word that was different from control, so that it's really easy to distinguish one from the other, because it's a dance, isn't it?
Well, one is controlling, I guess, which is going to be a bit of a struggle, and the other is easygoing, which seems to get what it wants without all of that effort.
And is willing to sometimes accept that it won't get what it wants.
And be okay with it.
And be okay with that.
Okay, you see, these are very, very resilient positions.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I'm looking at.
Yes.
Because if you're behaving in an incompetent manner, you know, generally speaking, no one behaving in an incompetent manner really knows it until after.
That is a good point. And actually, in a relationship where you're on good enough terms that if one person does start barfing and, you know, the unbridled self-expression or whatever, if the other person can say, oh, and I know you've done this, oh, you okay? Do you need a coffee? Do you need a glass of water? Do you need a walk in the park?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for it to be accepted as, oh dear, I must have just been a little bit too easily triggered. And I don't want to go there. No. So I'll take a step back, step outside of your own jam jar so you can see what's written on the label, which is going to say angry, triggerable, probably tired, probably toxed up, maybe hungry.
There we go. And if at any point in your life you can be in any of those conditions,
which of course is going to happen, isn't it?
Then one would need to be thoughtful before one talks to people who are really important to you.
Indeed.
And actually, are not all people pretty important? Yes.
Oh, some people are probably more important than others.
So if one can't think of another way of talking to folk, you know where your problem lies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's you. This is about power, isn't it?
Definitely you.
Yes, because if you don't want to, if you're pulling losing strategies, it's because you're losing.
And they're going to cause you to lose.
And
actually,
more.
Generally speaking, both partners are probably going to be engaging in losing strategies.
Perfect.
Because it's that dance again, isn't it? And so each side of the dance matches the other side of the dance.
Yes. Yes, of course. It's a death spiral, isn't it?
It's the famous death spiral.
It's the famous death spiral. And so the 5 losing strategies, which
we want to go through them again?
Well, let's do it because it's hot stuff.
So the first one is needing to be right.
Okay.
And that can either be correcting somebody because you think their ideas are all wrong, or it can be telling them what they ought to be doing. Like, you know, you should brush your teeth more often, your breath smells. That's not very nice, is it?
Find another way of doing it. Yeah.
So that's the first one. The second one is trying to control your partner.
Yes.
The third one is unbridled self-expression.
Yeah, really losing it with them. Okay.
The last two, I think the fourth one is retaliation and the fifth one is withdrawal.
Fourth one is retaliation, which means tit for tat. You've hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you.
Yeah, exactly.
And withdrawal, which means I'm actually going to sulk, and in that way, I'm going to punish you.
It kind of does mean that.
And so these are not behaviours that are trying to find remedy. These are behaviors that are trying to find triumph.
Definitely not trying to find remedy.
Right. So the whole thing is in conflict. This is why we refer to them as losing strategies.
Yes,
because you will lose. So,
and both sides will lose. Both partners will lose.
There we go.
Yeah.
Because you're horrible company. Because people who actually diss each other in this way, are just deeply unpleasant to be with, and it's a good way of getting rid of people.
Well, you know what? If that's what you want, just carry right on. But it will make the divorce process much more painful than if you'd arrived at it from the point of view of saying, do you know what? I think this is over. Let's divorce nice and amicably. But we're not here to talk about divorce, are we?
No, we're here trying to keep it together.
And there were some other things I kind of wanted to say about what happens when we get to that point where we kind of want to barf all over our other half. Do you need to top your water up, darling?
I'm fine. Carry on.
The first thing to check is, am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I ill, etc.? And the second thing is like, well, am I just in a bad mood? Am I feeling irritable today? Is my mood low?
How about, do I think this will work?
Well, that is also true. But what I'm arriving at is the fact that if I'm feeling angry about something that you did, it may not be that what you did was going to merit me being angry normally. It may be more that I'm such a foul mood, anything would make me angry.
No.
And secondly, and this is so important for people to understand, is that actually you can't make me feel angry. There's nothing you can do to make me feel angry. Only I can make me feel angry. I'm not giving you license to do anything you like. But it's my thinking about what you just did or what you are doing right this moment, which would make me feel angry. So when you understand that all our feelings are inside, they come from the inside out, as it were, rather than from the outside in, it changes the whole landscape. And yes, sometimes some people do things which are really reprehensible. But nonetheless, if I'm feeling angry about something reprehensible that somebody else did, it's still my thinking that got me to that point of being angry. And that's possibly in the context of being tired and irritable and all the rest of it.
Or it's also in context of being threatened, being challenged.
And that too.
And being in actual trouble.
But how I experience that threat.
Yes.
The way I experience being hungry.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And there are certain contexts. There are all kinds of things people do, which to me, look, why would anybody want to go on one of those roller coasters? It gives you a feeling like you've got a whiplash. I never got that. But people love it. I hate roller coasters. But it's not that the roller coaster is intrinsically making me have a headache. It's that probably my tension gives me a headache.
You know, I have watched roller coaster queues. I've been interested in them.
Oh, right.
Yes. And there's the people who come off and they've had a great time. They're all disheveled and they're like, yeah, man. And then there's the people who come off and they haven't had such a good time.
No. And then they're the ones that come up and ask the attendant for an aspirin.
Or yeah, indeed, they're very uncomfortable. They're green.
Yes.
They're not going to do it again. They need to go and sit somewhere. And I recognise the difference between these two characters is that the roller coaster is a contained thrill. It's a contained thrill. You're going to do it once you're in there and that bar's down. You're going for it.
You have no choice.
You've got no choice. And it's going to throw you about in a relatively safe way.
Relatively.
But you're going to feel it. And you either go with that or you resist.
Yeah.
And some people go with it and they put their arms up and they're going, wee. And the others are white knuckling that experience, gritting their teeth and hoping for it to be over quickly.
Yeah.
And they're the ones, the fighters.
They're the fighters.
They're the fighters, yes.
Because they're resisting.
Yes, because they are actually, they've made a decision and they're conflicted in that decision.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So they're there to look after the kids and actually they're the most unsuitable person. You know, that sort of thing. That sort of thing.
And I guess it's important to point out that if you are being abused by your other half, I am not comparing that to a roller coaster.
No.
if you're being abused by it, and if you're angry because you're being abused in some way, that doesn't mean to say that it's just all in your head.
No, it's not.
It just means that the way you respond comes from, because you could actually go into yourself and withdraw and protect yourself that way, or you could be the barfing type. I think the more abused you are, probably the less likely it is you're going to be barfing. But you might find when you've been withdrawn for 2 or 3 months on end that you finally, I don't know, I've never been. I don't want to talk about too much about my own personal experience because of who's involved, but yeah, sometimes you just can't hold it in any longer.
Well, there's a snapping point. This is
the
straw that breaks the camel's back. And what's interesting is, if the camel continues to be loaded, its back will break. There we go.
Yes.
And
exactly.
so this is really, if we're deploying a losing strategy like going mad at our partner, this is where consciousness has to kick in, because I need to be thinking about this before I go over that cliff edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I get into this crisis zone.
And looking at what your exit strategy is and that kind of thing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely, because a relationship, it's a vessel in which you both ride.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got to have peace in there. And if you haven't got peace in there, you have a conflicted ship. You've got trouble. And peace, it's really interesting. A relationship, again, there's only one wheel on it. And both parties have to be steering that thing together, don't they? For there to have
That's
harmony.
An interesting metaphor, though. It only has one wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. It only has one wheel.
And without getting too kind of philosophical about it, when does it stop being a relationship? It's two people living under one roof who are engaged in mortal combat. But I didn't really want to go down there because I think we've got away from the main thing, which is really here we're talking about people who want to revive a maybe slightly damaged relationship. And
yes, I think that you can get past the scars. If you have the will, you can get past the scars. If you don't have the will,
well, and also you don't have to want to.
No, you don't.
Nobody is responsible for the other half. So if your other half is just not prepared to engage in any way, even though you would like to, you don't have to try and make them. You can just say, let somebody else take this guy on or this woman on.
Okay.
And God help them. Anyway, I wanted to say one more thing, and I know it's 23 minutes in.
Cool.
And if anyone's out there watching, please let us know, because we're all lonely in here. So the other thing I want to talk about is the things that make us angry are quite specific to the things that we did not get from our parents. So we tend to end up with people where we expect them to give us, we end up with people, but certain kind of people, but we expect to get, or we want to get from them something that we didn't get from our parents. But we tend to end up with people who are more like our parents than not. So it's a contradiction.
So you're attracted to your mum or your dad, and you're equally disappointed in that person as you were first time around.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny anyway, isn't it?
Well, that's just funny.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a go with this with one of them. I'm going to have another go. See if it. Yeah, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
And I don't know. We probably do know why this happens. I don't know why it happens. I don't know the details of how it happens.
Well, why wouldn't it happen?
But it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Particularly,
you only have one relationship stance, and that's the one you leave home with.
But the interesting thing is that every child has a friend whose mother or father or both they adore because they seem to be the perfect parents. And it's like, Mummy, why can't you be more like so-and-so's mummy? And so you could have thought, my coffee, you could have thought that we walk out looking for somebody who reminds us of so-and-so's mummy. But we don't. We go out looking for unconsciously looking for somebody who reminds us of our own parents.
Yes. Well, we cleave to that which is familiar. So if we recognize it, we'll be comfortable with it. That's the thing.
I think that's part of what it is.
That's the thing. And so when you get out into the full menu.
Yeah, and there's the thing about we develop a character, personality, call it what you will, which is adapted to what our parents presented us with.
And accepted from us.
And accept, yeah. Because in the end, you're going to get to a place where you're accepted.
Well, this is where we come back to the tanty behaviour, because that probably happened earlier. If you're dealing with a partner who has unfettered self-control, tanties at you,
yes,
then one would look into their back catalogue and you'll probably find that behaviour in childhood.
I would expect so.
So would I.
And it might be that the only way they got their parents' attention was by throwing a tantrum.
I've seen that.
Yeah, me too.
Dull parents,
yes.
Really agitated child.
Yeah, and actually, I know this is a little bit off topic, but I'd love to know what's going to happen to those children whose parents are on their mobile phones all the time. Because how do they get attention if not by throwing a tanty? Or
they send a text.
Mummy, pay attention. I don't.
Make a film.
But make a film
of themselves
and then put it on
YouTube. Yes.
And then direct their parents to it.
Yes.
Yeah, to YouTube.
Actually, you just moan about your parents, stick it on just YouTube and see how big the audience gets.
But in terms of but anyway, what we're saying is that we end up attracting a partner who is that look and key.
Who is the problem?
Who is the problem? Because they fit that character mold.
And the reason you find them fascinating is because you resonate with them because of your unfinished business.
Yes, exactly.
This is Terry Neal suggests. This. Real. Yes. Yeah, he suggests this too.
He talks about we marry our unfinished business until we stop marrying our. There's a fly. Sorry. Until we stop marrying our unfinished business.
So does that mean you finish the business and then you do some other business?
You just start some other business which is not do you know what? You're trying to trick me, aren't you? Is this a moment to bring on our
no, it's probably a moment to actually get ready to conclude, isn't it?
That's what I meant.
Yes.
We've got 3 minutes.
Oh, we've got 3 minutes.
Yes.
So
I think we're kind of. Is there anything more to say on the subject?
Not a sausage. Yes. I think we've nailed it there. I think it was informative, well presented, clear. There was a hair.
The hair arrived.
Absolutely.
Just in the nick of time.
I think that you people are beautiful and you're going to have a nice time in your relationships because you've listened to waffle like this and that stops you arguing for half an hour, which can't be bad. Can't be bad. Right.
See, I can't do this half as well as you do it. Go and show the lovely people out there what a clever hair you are, Harriet. You spend too much time watching animal films on Instagram.
I like animal films,
and that's why you're so good at doing this.
Well, this is what they call packing in breakfast TV. They call the adverts haven't been queued up. Would you say something interesting that just might keep them watching?
So they actually
until the adverts kick up, and that goes neatly with our shameless self-promotion. Which obviously cheapened the entire product, but there you go. That's
Did you just make Harriet do a cartwheel?
Yeah. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
And I hope you have a lovely time in your love lives.
Yes. Love to everybody. Take a breath in. Lots of love in. And breathe out. Lots of love out. To quote Yoga with Adrian, who has a Benji. And with that, completely incomprehensible comments. Bye, everybody.